Hi, my name is Kelly and I am here to do an unboxing and some swatching of this Holbein Artist Watercolor Palm Box Plus. I'm so excited. This is a Christmas present, and while this is not an art channel or blog, I love paint and I love watching these types of things, and so I figure why not? I'm going to go ahead and open it up because I got a really good deal on this. If you look on something like Dick Blick's, is one that I had looked at for something for this particular box. I think it shows the original price is like $475, and then their price I think was $330 some, and I found this on Amazon for $134. Now I saw it a few around that price, or certainly around $160 or so on eBay, but I really was like, is this like really? And I saw in some of the questions, people were the same thing. Is this actually this one? Because it's such a price difference. But it seemed to be good and legitimate, and so I took the chance to see. I had Christmas money. And yes, so I'm really excited. So while I don't consider myself to be a professional artist or anything of that nature, I work mostly in divinatory things, such as tarot reading and Lenormand reading, which is an old German system of divination. I created Story in Color Lenormand, which is a modern kind of recreation of my interpretation of the cards through color and movement of that color. And so this was my project for last year, using watercolor paints, mostly Daniel Smith with some Winsor & Newton Professional. You can really see the granulation. I don't think I used salt. I might have used salt in that one. But I love Daniel Smith for its granulation. And at this moment, when I kind of filled all of my paints after this project, I pretty much primarily, my palette is Daniel Smith because of the granulation process, which is something that I really love in Daniel Smith. This is a really good example of gorgeous granulation. I think this is Lunar Blue granulation of Daniel Smith. So obviously very abstract, and so that kind of texture and thing is really important and beautiful. However, sometimes you don't necessarily want all the granulation, and I have been intrigued by the Holbein for actually the opposite, the pie pigment, which is something that I really love, as well as the really smooth surface, drying surface. And so that's one of the things that really appealed to me. I also got a set of Holbein gouache and was really impressed by the vibrancy of the pigment. And so I'm getting ready to work on a complementary oracle deck to this, and so I've been thinking paints and thinking color, and so I decided that's why I decided to give the actual watercolors a try. So all that being said, let's get into what we're actually here to look at. I will be swatching it some as well, but for right now we're just going to go ahead and get it opened up. So again, this is a Holbein Artist Watercolor by Holbein, but it's the Palm Plus box. You can buy this box separately, from what I understand, empty, and you can also get it. This has the 36 colors in it, and you can add a whole nother row, which I'm going to be doing, not today, but I have some other paints to add in here. And you can get it empty, you can get it in 12 pan, I think you can get it in 24 pan, you can get it in various configurations. And yeah, I was going to say something else, but I totally lost it. So here we oh, I'm so excited. It is literally snowing outside. I woke up to a blizzard and I knew it was going to be in the post office today, and it is Christmas weekend, so if I didn't get it today, it wouldn't be till Tuesday. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to brave. Thankfully, my post office is fairly close. I creeped my way there right when it opened so that, it, as the snow continues to pile up, I was able to get my paints. I was so excited about it. So here we have, so you can see all of their products, obviously. It is a Japanese company. One of the reasons that they say that it's so vibrant is because it is so finely ground, and they do not use ox gall in their paints, which keep it from drying out and getting crumbly when it dries out, apparently, and also allows it to really re-wet well. So if you like to lift color while painting, it makes beautiful. There's a artist, her first name is Maria, and I cannot pronounce her last name, that does many beautiful art tutorials or watercolor tutorials, as well as I think her just, watching her paint, and that I have watched many of them, and she uses all Holbein paints, and you can really see her go back in with the water and a brush and just lift color back off, which is a beautiful technique that this brand does very well. And from what I understand, they are all vegan, if that's something that's important to you, except for the black, which this deck does not. And I don't know if it's the Payne's gray, but I thought it was the ivory black that is not vegan. You might want to check on that. But other than that one color, from what I understand, this is actually quite is a vegan option for people who that's important to them. So I'm assuming this is all of the colors that are in the deck. It does have a peach black that is ivory black. Sorry, I have my glasses on. It has Payne's gray. So yeah, from what I understand, that ivory black is the only one that is not vegan. So it does have the white and black colors, which of course are always, I actually do sometimes like to have black. I'm really curious to see this peach black versus this ivory black. I do really prefer, I mostly will use like a Payne's gray. The ivory or the Chinese white, I intend to pull the white out of the pan and just put some white gouache in there because that would be useful to have in the pan set. So here we have all the 36 colors, which we'll look at. I'm going to swatch through those, but they do give it to you with, it looks like, that doesn't have the pigments on here, although I did find a website that did list all of the pigments. Yeah, I don't see the pigment, what the pigments are, aren't listed in this, but you can find it on their website because I was looking at it last night. And then the colors and which set. So it looks like there is actually an 8 set, 12 set, 18 set, 21 set, 24 set, and the 36 set. So lots of options. And these are, of course, in the pans, which I think only 48 of their colors are in pans. And then, of course, after this, I will be refilling with tubes. I will start to work up a tube collection depending on how I like them. Oh, here we actually have a lovely little swatch card. Great, we will use that, which obviously has the number, which I'm assuming is going to be on the pan. So we have a swatch card. Of course, most of it is in Japanese because this is a Japanese watercolor. Oh, look at this. Okay. I love unboxings. I do lots of card unboxings, but this is my first paint unboxing. So we have this beautiful royal blue. It is plastic. It looks like it's enamel, but it is actually just plastic. It's got a little dust on here, or like from this, but it's in beautiful condition. They have the neatest boxes. Like they have one that's like, I think all 48 colors with a ceramic mixing tray on it. Oh, that was really tempting as well, but I didn't find such a good deal on that one. So here we have it. It says each PN has on here Holbein. Nothing is on the back. It's got the hinge. Let's take a look. Okay, how does it, alright, is there a trick to it? Well, it's nice, it feels nice and firmly closed, so that is wonderful. And here they all are. Okay, I'm so excited, I can't even tell you. It has a tray, which I will probably actually just leave in there because you can use this, and it is quite sturdy, but you know, you don't have much. It's just probably that angle where you can put and paint like right on there. So I guess, you know, if I was obviously out and about, that might be helpful. But most of the time I paint indoors, and so most of the time I'll just leave that where it is. But you can take it off, and if you look, there are grooves along the tops and the bottom all around it, so that you can set it like that and have it below if you prefer to have it below the paints. You can set it to the sides, although it is going to kind of, you know, lean in that direction. Or you can turn it this way, and that is quite sturdy actually in that way, and it doesn't actually fold down. It's staying more flat in that direction. So and it feels really nice. It's a real thick plastic. Obviously ceramic would be amazing, but that would also make it a lot heavier. So there we have it. And then it does come with a brush here, travel brush, which is probably for me not going to stay, simply because I intend on putting another row of paints here. But let's take a look at it. It looks like maybe an 8. I'll have to get my brushes out. It looks like maybe an 8 round. Could be 8 or a 10 maybe round, but I'll get my brushes out and compare it and see. That's a nice size, right? Versus something like a really teeny brush, depending on how nicely pointed it goes when you add water into it. But I actually quite like that, because I don't often use little, even though obviously if you're going to use this big, you'd be doing little tiny paintings, but that's a nice sort of medium size to use, and it of course has the bullet to stick it in and keep it safe, and then you can just stick it right there if you're going to use it that way. Now I don't know if it would close. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's enough of a gap. So yeah, again, I intend to I already have some colors, I think 6 colors. Like I said, this I'll probably swap out. I could swap out one and take out one of the blacks. Let me see where that peach, it said peach black. It was so strange, but I don't see that actually here. Shadow green I'm really interested in. This is ivory black. I don't see that color. Maybe that's a misprint. Or let me look back here. Yeah, it says, my eyesight is terrible, PN611 peach black. Maybe that's not in this particular set. So this might be all the colors. Well, this is the highest one, so let me find it over here. These kinds of things intrigue me. Yeah, it says peach black and ivory black. No, that does not show as being included in any of the sets. So, okay, so that's not in there. Just the ivory black is in this particular set. So this must list all of their colors and then which ones are missing from the set. So there we have it, only one black. But this I could pull out and take the color out of the pan and put something else that I use. But I do every once in a while like to have black, so I'll see how this black looks, but I could even put like a lunar black or something that I use a lot, but I think I want to keep all Holbein in here. Bit of a purist there, I guess. So let us, so they come in these little packages, which I don't even want to mess up here, but let me start. So they are in, that one's kind of hard to, we're going to have to work on that one, so we'll start with white. So they're in these little packages, but I am going to guess they're not going to be quite as easy to open as one would hope. That's not too bad. I will definitely close the video and go open it all up and come back, or we will be here forever. But let's get one of them opened up at least. So they have a magnetic strip on the bottom, and you can see it extending into this front panel. So you can definitely use this panel to put another row. It fits a full row, it fits them perfectly. Obviously this lip is a little bit high, so these you might have to angle a bit to get into, but they do go in there, and they do have little magnets on the bottom to hold them in place. And the cup looks quite filled there. And then on the side, it does have the Chinese white and the color. This is not the pigment, but it is their number association for that color. And so we have that there, so that you can then, obviously, if you use one up faster, you can easily know what you need to refill that as if you want to get the same color back. So and there we have the first one. Let the unwrapping begin. So it does show actually the pigment number on the package itself, as well as the light fast rating, obviously, as well as the color name in English on there as well. Now, I don't know what the XF, I am not an expert at these things. Some say SF, some say ZF, and then some are just other things, like this one is a number 18. So I'm not sure what that designation is. But it does have, I'm just going to put a number, I was going to start writing the pigments, but some of these are multiple pigments. So I'm just going to put the light fast rating here on this before when I open it up. Okay, I'm on the very last one, and I'm not going to lie, that was actually quite painful on the fingers. I don't have any great tips other than if you get it started on the back and just kind of pull till you really open it up. What you want to do is there's a blue paper. See how that turns into paper? And if you can get that... this wasn't very helpful. Some of them work better that way, but this one did not. Every once in a while I got one that was super easy, and it was like, oh, that's such a relief, because my finger, of course I ripped my nail low right before I needed it. But I have to say, my fingers are quite sore. That was some project, but I will say they, were packaged very nicely. The vermilion, so just on, as I was opening them, the things that came to mind, this vermilion is quite orange compared to what I was thinking vermilion would be, compared to, I think I have Daniel Smith vermilion. I'll compare some to my swatches after I swatch it. But, so that one kind of surprised me. The lowest color fast rating was the Opera, which I think is the case with all of the Operas from different lines as well. I don't know if that's a color I would use a lot of, I guess as a splash of boldness or in flowers perhaps. But that's got the lowest light fast rating. This is quite an interesting yellow-green here. And this, I'm kind of curious about this green, emerald green Nova. I'm not sure about that. And it almost looks like a little bit chalkier consistency than the others, but that could just be the way it is. I'm going to pay attention. I know I've heard people say that the cobalt blue isn't really a great cobalt blue, and I know a lot of these are actually pigment mixes versus single pigments. There's a lot more, if I understand, multi-pigments than single pigments. But I've heard that despite that, they actually can mix very well. So we shall see. I'm excited to give it a try. So I am going to put some of this away, out of the way, and get out some water and fill out the swatch paper. Okay, I pulled out some of my swatches to look at in a minute. And I also grabbed, let's see, this is a 6. Yeah, I would say that that would be an 8. This is a Princeton Neptune 8. And that's like a Master's Touch or something, 6. So it seems to be about an 8. So that's a nice, you know, size to have. I also have a piece of my favorite paper. This is Arches 140 pound. So that's the paper that I primarily paint on. So I have a piece of that as well, and I'll test that brush out in a minute. But this is quite small little boxes, so I'm just going to use this. A little tip, these little things here are for tea lights. You know, people put tea lights in these mason jars, so it fits around the edge of a mason jar, but it gives you a nice little rough, you know, cleaning edge to when you're cleaning off your water. So I have found that that works really quite nicely. So I guess we better work from the top down so that I'm not putting my hand in the paint. So we're going to start up here with, I wish I had the paint name. Ooh, very, very, very bold here. Which is what, from my understanding of things, so maybe I need to slide everything down so that as I go, this is the permanent, it has a P in front of it, so I think it's permanent Alvazian versus the more fugitive one. The next color is Carmine. So the next color is Carmine. They really wet. They re-wet perfect, like quickly. You do not have to sit there and mess with it at all in terms of trying to get it to reactivate and really get in there and dig in it. Should leave it. So hard with such a little space to, you know, leave some of the lighter color at the bottom. But I will be swatching out like this myself. So I'm just kind of doing this to see those first impressions and have this little card, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So the next color is the Opera color, and again, really impressed. You just barely touch it and the color activates. That's like a fluorescent pink. I mean, I could definitely see making some beautiful flowers with that and like a pop of color, but it's not a color I see using a lot. The next color, I'm going to have very messy fingers, is Vermilion. This one is the one that I thought was quite orange for Vermilion. We'll see here. In fact, I would switch this on my palette. I would actually probably move that over. Yeah, because that looks very orange to me. It's a beautiful color, but it's definitely an orange color. This next color is Pyrrole, which is a really beautiful red. I am not, you know, I don't know a lot about pigments. That's a Pyrrole red from Daniel Smith's Alero Castanets Master Artist set. There's a Pyrrole Scarlet, which is a little more orangey, that I love as well. So I do quite like that color. Let's see, the next color would be Naphthol Red. Be ready, be prepared for me slaughtering the names of things. Professional is not in the, oh, this is a beautiful. I mean, look at the pigment. I barely touch it, And I think that's going to be a learning curve, right? To if you want to get those more subtle washes, you're not going to use much, color. You're going to be watering it down beautifully. This next one is a brilliant orange. It definitely is. And you can see with that orange, that there is some red tones here, but that still looks quite orange. I do like that color though. It's just not what I think of as vermilion. The next I believe is lemon yellow. Yes. Lemon yellow, and then while this is dry, it's like a name that I'm going to slaughter. Very bright, clean lemon yellow. Love it. And then this is imidazolone yellow. Do not come here if you want to learn how to correctly say these pigments. Looks to be a warmer. Beautiful. As of this first row, I have to say I'm really impressed with the pigment, and it seems to be a very smooth, almost like the Kuretake. I'll have to get out my Kuretake swatches because it has that very smooth look to it, like the Kuretake. Okay, so next we have yellow ochre, which I generally I would definitely move some of these around, because I generally put this down by my earth colors. But that's a beautiful yellow ochre. See how that compares. Here's Daniel Smith, a little bit more yellow than brownie, which I don't mind. I think it's beautiful. And again, I would probably, I left these in the order they were so that I could have it correctly on here, but I would probably rearrange this a bit. We have a cad yellow lemon. Cad yellow lemon here. I mean, you barely have to touch it with water. That's a little bit more opaque, as well as in terms of looking at just that little number, which obviously isn't but you can see that that's definitely a little bit more of an opaque than, say, the lemon yellow. The next is Cad Yellow Deep. I mean, you barely touch, that's very opaque. You barely touch the paint with water and it activates. It's beautiful. From what I understand, I don't know if that is the lack of the oxgall in it, if that's what causes it to reactivate so beautifully. I'm not sure, as I am not a professional. The next is a Indian yellow. I was interested in this compared to the yellow ochre. Ooh, it's kind of almost looks like the base or the yellow part of a quinacridone. It's kind of like a new gambage. I have that. Of course, this is very wet, so I'll have to wait for this to dry to really compare. But yeah, it looks like more like a new gambage from Daniel Smith. It may be the same pigments as that. Again, I am not that knowledgeable about different pigments. We have leaf green next. Why do I have a random blue right there? I don't know. Definitely have to reorganize. This is actually really, I think, a very pretty color. It's a very yellow green. I wonder if I can pull up some more. Very transparent. I quite like that though. I like that color. Then I don't know if this is probably Viridian. I always have Viridian on my palette, or I actually don't think I got it in, oh yeah, I do have it in Daniel Smith. It's not my favorite color green. I tend to lean more towards the warmer greens. This in pan looks quite, oh look at that, is very beautiful though. Take a little of that off so we can see. Yeah, I mean the pigment is just, it's amazing. And it is really true to what I felt with the gouaches that the Holbein gouaches that I got. Have that. Although I have to say my gouaches dried very crumbly, which is, you know, it's obviously a different medium. This is Emerald Green Nova, so I was quite curious about this color. Very opaque, which is what it looks like it in the pan. I'll be interested to see how this dries. The next one is a Cad Green Pale. I mean, look at that. You just literally touch it with the water. That's really beautiful. I have a Hooker's Green coming, Holbein Hooker's Green that I'm going to put in because I do like that color. I think that's the only green I think I have coming as a Hooker's Green. My friend had some 15 milliliter tubes that she's bringing up this week, so I can fill some half pans, and then I got a couple, and then she's going to fill some half pans. So we're doing a little color sharing. So, ooh, now I love this olive. I'm a big fan of olive. Obviously, you can mix olive, and I have done so, but this is really, oh, I just added way too much water. It's going to dry funny. But that's a beautiful olive. I am a big fan of olive green. The next one down here is sap green, of course. Must have color. I love Daniel Smith's sap green. I feel is like a very deep compared to, oh, this is beautiful. Compared to Winsor & Newton Professional Sap. I was surprised by the Daniel Smith. That's beautiful. But the Daniel Smith Sap Green is just real. Well, now I probably, you know, swatched this really dark, but that's really pretty. I quite like the looks of that. What do we got next? Beautiful colors. Ooh, I'm getting paint all. Gonna make it all messy. It's gonna get messy eventually, right? This shadow green, I was really interested in this. I do paint with a lot of greens, so I am really, oh wow, look at that. I'm gonna try to reduce it down, the color down a little bit to see what, that's gorgeous. Very opaque, very dark. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I will definitely be getting some use out of that. That was one I was quite intrigued by. Next we have Cobalt Blue, which I have a couple of the reviews that I have watched or walkthroughs have made notes about the Cobalt Blue. I think having probably white in it, which I don't think they're the only ones that do that, the white pigment in with the cobalt. And I could be wrong because I don't have the package on here. Let's see, do I have a cobalt? Yeah, it's very different, I will say, than the Daniel Smith. Cobalt is much darker, and I did see that a couple people make mention of that. I still think it's quite a beautiful blue, sky blue. I think the next is Cerulean, yeah, which is a color that I use a lot, again in skies, and this is really beautiful. This, you know, obviously it's different. It's not the exact same as the Daniel Smith, which granulates beautifully, but I like that. That's quite lovely. Next up, I think, is Ultramarine Light, and no, I could be wrong. No, because that's light and dark. What is this one? I think this is Phthalo. Oh, I'm going to make a mess. This one I think had it on the other side. Yeah, this is Phthalo blue, and then it's ultramarine light and dark. I quite love phthalo. That's beautiful. It's very different, I will say, than the Daniel Smith. Of course, again, it's not dry yet, so I'll look again. But it seems a little more, maybe more on the greener side. I'm not great at that yet. You know, what is it, red? Is it towards the red or is it towards the green? I'm working on it, but I'm not an expert. So then we have ultramarine light. Now that would be more, from what I understand, that would be much more of a red base. Beautiful. Makes beautiful purples. And then ultramarine deep. It's interesting. Maybe I need to get rid of some water. I have French ultramarine. This gives me like a feeling of like a Delft blue. I mean, I'm sure that's not the case, but that's what the first thing I thought of is those. Lift some of that water out of there. Definitely not deeper, and maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe that name is misleading. I think the only, I've used ultramarine, I don't know which one it was, in Winsor Newton Professional. I have to see if I still have that swatch. And then I have the French ultramarine in Daniel Smith. This next is Prussian blue, which is one of my absolute favorite colors. It was one of the first colors that when I started getting into watercolor, I was like, oh, I absolutely have to have that color. And look at that. That's beautiful. I think one of the things I watched said something about this Prussian blue, but I think it's quite beautiful. It's different. It's definitely more, it's not as deep toned as, say, the Daniel Smith, but it's beautiful. I'll take it. You know, I have the Daniel Smith, so I don't need it to be the exact same. And then, okay, making a mess. We have Dioxin Violet. Really don't need much water. Beautiful, bold violet. I don't really have, do I have? I have a lot of violets because I tend to mix them, but I do like having a convenient purple as well. So then, let me slide things down here so I can see. We have quinacridone magenta. I also have quinacridone violet coming because it looked quite beautiful. You know, I would, in terms of placement, I would have this up by the pinks and reds. It's a beautiful, again, very beautiful pigment. And then we get into some of our earth tones. So we have burnt umber. See, I had way too much water in that olive, and that stinks because I might do another coating on the top of that because I really want to see that color in its glory. But I am making bigger swatches like this, so I'll have a chance to see it a little better. Pull some of that pooling up. Then we have, I'm assuming, burnt sienna. Yes, of course, that's one I go through a lot of. It's beautiful. A little orangier maybe than the Daniel Smith. Yes, seems a little bit oranger, but beautiful. Again, I have the, I have the in a palette, Daniel Smith palette, and so I don't really need it to be the exact same. Next is the Indian Red. Which I think was a color I wanted from the Daniel Smith. I don't have it. Ooh, I do like that. Look how opaque that is. That just like covers. That's gorgeous. That's really beautiful. I love that. Very opaque. Next up is probably sepia. Yes, I use a lot of sepia. And I have to say, I did not like the Winsor Newton Professional Sepia. I hated the way that it dried. It was a pain to reactivate. You know, obviously you could just use it straight from the tube and avoid that problem. But this just, like the rest of their paints, it just pulls right up with wetting, which is so wonderful. Because I know a lot of people can just squirt obviously the liquid color right on, because I do buy tubes, but I do prefer my paints in palettes dried, and so this is really, that reactivates beautifully. And then this is imidazoline brown. I'm slaughtering that, I am sure. I was curious about this. Ooh, that's beautiful too. It's almost like a transparent form. You know, it has sort of tones of the Indian red, but more transparent. It's quite beautiful. I like me some browns. I really do. I'm thinking the next one is Ivory Black. From what I understand, this is the only non-vegan color. I'm not a vegan, but this is, you see this come up a lot for people who are vegan and want vegan paint choices. You see Holbein come up, and from what I understand, this black is the only non-vegan color in Holbein's line. And then this one is a Payne's Gray, which is what I do love, a Payne's Gray. We'll see how this holds up. I've used Winsor Newton Professional. Oh, that's beautiful. I've used Winsor Newton Professional as well as the Daniel Smiths. I actually like them both, but I use Daniel Smith currently. That's gorgeous. I'll have to get that out a little bit, just out of curiosity. Just a little water on here. Just moves. I'll do another where you can see it, but yeah, that's absolutely gorgeous. I quite like that. Quite, and it gets super dark as well. So that's a color that I use quite often. So. And then of course there's the white. Again, I'm going to be probably cracking this out of here. Although look at that, does actually cover quite well. Very highly, it sounds strange to say it's highly pigmented and quite opaque for a white. I wonder if they have gouache in here. Look at that. I mean, that just, I can totally almost cover that print. But my intention is to break that out and put Holbein white gouache in there. Okay, I'm going to give this a dry with my heat gun, and I will be back. I definitely feel, and it's not, I mean, they're even more vibrant, but it has a dried quality, very similar to, in that beautiful flat way that the Kuretake Gansai's. You can definitely see that. I don't know if that is because they're both Japanese paints and that's sort of a style of paint in Japanese paint, but you can certainly see this is much more vibrant even than the Kuretake. Obviously this is artist grade paints, and so high pigment load, apparently very finely ground, at least that's what they say. Very finely ground, and again, minus any ox gall. So that did remind me or make me think of the Gansai. I do have some of my Winsor & Newton Professional. This is in the box for the Cotman, but I simply used it as a box. These are actually the Professional. And I have to say, I kind of messed up a couple of those. I'm going to have to obviously make my good swatches. The sap greens, a little bit, again, bolder. This does have a laminate over it. Yellow ochre is actually quite similar. This is just a little bit more vibrant. Burnt sienna is a little bit similar. So, and then the sepia, this is a little bit warmer maybe in tone of the sepia, but again, I despise working with, I think you can usually even see it. It just, I hate the way that it dries up in the pan. I hate reactivating it. I'm just not a fan of the Winsor & Newton Professional sepia. So there's that. Sap green is definitely a little bit brighter. This is a little bit more how I would expect sap green to be. This is sap green, I feel like, in Daniel Smith is quite deep. I really like that. That's how a little bit more how I would. A lot of mine are this like undersea cascade, so it's kind of hard. This does seem to be like a new gambage. Very, very well. This doesn't have quinacridone rose. Of course, again, I'm not good on the pigments, so I have some of them written up here that are single pigments of mine. So I'm not real great at that. The phthalo blue is actually quite beautiful. I think that's fairly close. That's close enough to me. The cerulean, this is a little bit deeper. I quite like it though. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I don't have any purples to compare. This is a quinacridone rose. This is quinacridone magenta. So obviously not the same. You can just see that, I will say, because I do, when I purchase Daniel Smith, I'm looking for, I want the granulating. I almost always pick ones that have the yes for granulating, because that's one of the factors that I love about Daniel Smith. Burnt sienna, you can definitely see this is a little bit oranger, a little warmer, but I quite like it. Sepia as well. This is a little cooler, perhaps. Again, I'm not real good at that. I like the sepia quite a bit. Burnt sienna, again, is a little bit warmer. I said that. Just trying to see any that I might have. I love this Paline maroon in Daniel Smith. So, yeah, I'm actually really pleased with this. I have, like I said, a few colors coming. I think I have a really deep indigo coming, a hooker's green, quinacridone violet, and I think my friend had a turquoise, a couple oceany blues. So, I'm excited about that. But let's take a look. This was the Wet on Wet. The Payne's Gray. I'm really happy with the Payne's Gray, and I was really impressed with how I'm not a professional, so I'm not sure, you know, that all the things that you should be doing to test it. I'm just going to test this little brush here. I quite like that when you hook it in, it's a nice in hand brush. So let's just put a little water down in terms of movement. I tend to love, I'll try this olive green again. See how that really spreads out and moves, which is quite beautiful. Just gonna put some of these greens in here. Sap in there just for some brighter color. I'm just kind of just seeing how it moves around a bit. It's actually really beautiful. Doesn't seem, we'll just throw a Viridian in there. I don't ever, I wouldn't say ever, but I'm not one to use Viridian straight. It's usually mixed. But we're just playing this leaf green. I don't think they've got water down here, but Yeah, I really like the feel of this paint. What to try, what to try, what to try. See if it turns too murky or anything. Definitely am not a big fan of Viridian all by itself. I don't know why that is. I mean, everybody's got their different things that they like. Let's pull some blues. The brush is okay. It's not my favorite. I have a set of, my boss had given me Amazon card for Christmas, and I have a set of blue velvet brushes coming, and I cannot wait. I will definitely do a walkthrough of those when they come. Let's just grab some blues here. Just seeing some beautiful light sky. I like the movement. I like how the color is moving within the water. I think it's actually moving really beautifully. Definitely not with beautiful Prussian, I think. Yeah. This is on arches again. I started out with the mindset that you can, use any color or any kind of paint on any kind of paper. Like, just get in there and use it. Don't worry about getting high-end things. I've moved to the person that says get the best that you can get, because paper does matter big time. That was probably one of my biggest lessons, was paper really does matter. See how that moves? It definitely drops. Your first drop into the water is a high pigment load, which I think I noticed on somebody's walkthrough where they did talk about that. How it drops down pigment, but look at that, just shoot across there and be very beautiful and organic. Yeah. Anyways, as I was saying, I quite like how, or I do think that paper matters. My preference, I tried a few, but my preference is the Arches 100% cotton, 140 pound paper, which is what this is. Paper matters. Paint matters. It does. It's very different, because I found myself being very frustrated when I was using a student grade paint, trying to follow tutorials of people who were using artist grade paints. The way that they blend and mix are very different, and I couldn't get the same results. I was getting mucky, muddy colors in the same mix. What I thought would have been equivalent mixes were then just turning out to be very muddy and murky, and not coming out in the best way. So I do think that if you can get a few colors, and I am one of these people who likes a lot of colors. I know that you can mix all the colors you need out of a few colors, but I really am one of those kinds of people that likes to have a lot of colors, but you don't need them all to start off. Let's just see here if we put in some burnt sienna. I don't remember which one of these. I have to obviously get used to the colors. You can make some nice grays, almost Payne's gray. Those are nice. That's a nice mix for shadows. I quite like that for like a burnt or burnt sienna and I use mostly the French ultramarine blue. Can make a really nice shadow color, like on the sides of buildings and things. It's really beautiful. I've also heard, one of the things that I've heard is that it's quite easy to pull the color up. Yeah, see that? See how you can almost entirely get back to white? So I've dried that. I'm not going to scrub it. I just want to see. So even fully dried, you can get quite a line off. But certainly when it's still somewhat wet, you can almost get back to the white of the paper. So that, and I have, you know, I've seen, like I said, I'll put a link to her channel below. Her first name is Maria. And that's one thing I've noticed in her paintings is that she's, you know, will go back in while it's still wet and, you know, kind of make these relief. See, you can, in some of that lighter, you can almost, you know, get back to white, and that's even dried. So they definitely lift beautifully. If that's something that you like to do, that might be something that interests you. In terms of, obviously, comparison, I'm mostly have most experience with Daniel Smith, heavily granulating. Again, I tend to lean towards colors that are heavily granulating. So definitely have that granulation factor here versus the smoothness of these, except for, you know, like in the ultramarine dark, you can see it a little bit. Perhaps a little bit in the maybe a little bit in the Payne's gray, but mostly you have a very smooth, so that is, you know, that's just what it is that you want. Or if you already have a lot of, like me, a lot of granulating colors, having a palette that is quite pigmented and smooth and rich is a nice complement. So anyways, this is also, so this is a very bright set, this Daniel Smith. You can get a set of tubes with this Master Artist set, which is a really great set to start with. You've got the neutral color, you've got some reds, you've got some natural colors, you've got your blues, you've got your yellow deeps. So, you know, that's a nice set. But you can see that's actually quite bold color. But it's definitely different, and I'm really excited to work with these. I'm going to work up some kind of work on a painting this weekend with them and give them a full workout. And go through and do these full swatches like these. I just need to sit down and cut them out. So there you go. I just wanted to do a walkthrough, opening, unboxing, and walkthrough of this beautiful Holbein Palm Box 36 color palette. I hope that this has helped in some way. And there's definitely some walkthroughs out there. It's very firmly, the case is firmly on. Let's try the dump test. It's magnetic, and it feels, you know, I wouldn't sit there and shake it around upside down, but they don't feel like they're going anywhere. Not really shifting around on the thing. So the magnet seems good enough, even though they're quite easy to flip up as well. So I'm impressed. I'm really happy. I'm excited to work with them and see a little bit more as I work with them, how I feel about them. But I'm mostly impressed by how you barely touch water to it and you're picking up pigment. I think a half pan of these will probably last quite some time because you don't need a lot of paint on the brush in terms of pigment. In fact, you're probably going to have to get used to that when laying color down, you know, how much color. I feel like you wouldn't have to get as many layers of this color to build up to a very vivid color, which is something that I like to do. So we'll see as I use it a little bit more. I definitely see that white dried a lot more transparent than it looked. So I will be swapping that out for gouache. But there you go. Have a wonderful day.